It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
At the moment, for some people, depending on where you live, you might be hearing an ad on the podcast where I sing "It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year." Then I stop singing so that you don't have to listen to my singing, because nobody really should be forced to endure that. But Kylie, if you were to describe how our December has been going so far, would you think that is an appropriate description, or would you have another one or two words to use instead?
I think I'm using fully stuffed right now.
Fully stuffed, as in it's been a fully stuffed week? Or do you mean like crammed too full?
So crammed.
I'm thinking of something else when you said
that. But you could think of anything right now.
How's life? Fully stuffed. It's just stuffed. If our kids said that, would we be okay with that? Would we look at them and say, "Don't talk like that"?
I don't think so right now.
So this might be tricky. Today on the podcast, we're reflecting on the week that was, as we do every Friday. It's called "I'll Do Better Tomorrow." How can we focus on being great parents when we are racing towards Christmas and the end of 2024 faster than I have words for? I mean, it is just so full on. What can we do to be better parents? How can we make sure that we're present and involved in our kids' lives in meaningful and positive and helpful ways? Kylie, what's your "I'll Do Better Tomorrow" this week?
So I'm not going to lie, I am feeling more stretched than I have in a long time.
Depleted, exhausted, and context. You didn't want to record the podcast today because you don't have time. There is so much going on.
But I've been reflecting on the year that we've had and the beautiful gift that you gave me last year of 14 guaranteed
getaways,
yeah. Whether it was a weekend or a week away with the kids or whatever. There was 14 gatherings that we were able to enjoy. And for me, so much of that was tied up in the recognition that our lives are busy, you travel a lot, and knowing that there was something to look forward to each month really made a huge difference in my capacity to keep carrying the load.
Yeah, and for context, in case people are sort of thinking, oh my goodness, who has 14 holidays in a year? Some of these were just overnighters. Some of them were using points. We were staying places for free, like with family a couple of times.
Well, let's be real. Most of them were actually work holidays.
A couple of them were work holidays.
You needed my help and I came with you.
You were coming with me, and so we just did that as well. And yeah, we had a couple of really nice holidays as well, which was just a delight. But I think I know where you're going with this. You're going to say that it was a lot.
It was a lot. It was a lot. And as I have reflected on how I'm feeling right in this moment, having only just come back from our final holiday of the year.
Yep.
And feeling just as exhausted as I did before, maybe even more exhausted if I'm being completely honest.
Than before we left.
It has occurred to me that it's actually not about the holidays where we think we're going away to get rejuvenated and, kind of have some relaxing time and all of that. And while that does play a part, the reality is that we come back to the same stuff. And in some cases, it actually exacerbates the things that we're coming back to because we've now just lost a whole heap of time that we would have been able to utilize to put towards managing or, working through whatever challenges or things that we have in front of us. And so I actually really hate the fact that I'm sitting here in this space right now feeling so loaded up. So stuff's the word I've got. It's probably not the best word to use, but I feel like my life is just so stuffed and crammed full at the moment that it's really hard to even take a breath, let alone enjoy the space that we have. And I'm dreading the fact that come Christmas Day, I'm not even going to want to get out of bed because there's just been so much in the lead up. So I'm really wanting to work through that and look at next year and how we change things. And as I've been kind of pondering about all of that, the acknowledgement is it's not really about the holidays. It's about actually being intentional about what I put into my life in the first place. We're here at the end of the year. I've taken on a lot with homeschooling this year and the other commitments that we already had before we had that. And so what does next year look like so I don't find myself in December feeling completely just spent.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I read a book by an academic called Leidy Klotz, Leidy is his name, Leidy Klotz from the Netherlands. And the book was called Subtract. It was a bit too academic. It wasn't what I would consider to be a great book. However, the book had an overarching theme that really applies to what you're describing right now, and that is that whenever we try to improve things, we generally are additive. We're putting more stuff in, and when there's too much stuff, sometimes it's better to start subtracting. And what I'm hearing you say is to do better, maybe we need to do less, but to do it much more well. Did I say that right?
No, you didn't.
But you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think that as I'm reflecting on our year, there are definitely areas that we can subtract, and so that's my big life lesson.
So can we start subtracting from today? Can we actually, or do we have to get through the next couple of weeks before we get to subtract? Because I like the idea of it.
Unfortunately, I think we've just got to get through the next few weeks.
Okay, so
I don't think there's a lot we can subtract from the next few weeks, but I'm going
to have a cranky and stressed out Kylie for another week or two.
I'm really looking forward to it.
Sleeping in on Christmas Day. We're not going to get a sleep in. We're going to have our son-in-law jump on our bed with our granddaughter on Christmas morning, and we're going to love that as well. One thing that I can promise you is that next year we're not having a single holiday. Cost of living crisis, and even though we did most of these things on the cheap, we're not going to go away. It's just not happening. So you don't have to worry about me cramming our calendar too full with trips.
Okay. What life lessons have you learnt this week?
Well, it's not this week, but you alluded in your conversation about your I'll Do Better Tomorrow to our final getaway of the year. You and I, over a year ago, decided that I was going to have my first ever legit fair income go away on a surfing trip to a location and get the best waves of my life holiday. And we picked a bucket list location, a place that I've always wanted to go, a place that you and I have both actually wanted to go. And you said, well, if it's a surfing holiday, but it's to that location, I'd like to come along as well. So we booked for the two of us to go. And I had a great time. I caught a whole lot of great waves. But I had an experience there that really, as soon as it happened, I thought, this is parenting. This is life. This is how we do life. So I've been surfing since I was 13. In all that time, you've never come to the beach to watch me surf. You're generally not interested in watching me in the waves.
It's not high on my priority list.
No, I guess if you're trying to reduce things from your life, why add one more? For a variety of reasons, I've never seen myself surf, but I know that I'm an intermediate surfer. I'm quite competent in the water. I'm surfing big waves and that kind of thing. So I know that I can surf pretty well. However, on this surfing holiday, we were there with some friends. They took some footage, and I saw myself surfing for pretty much the first time in my life. And while I'm still surfing competently, I'm not nearly as good as I thought I was. In fact, after the first day of surfing where you did get to watch me, and I said, hey, honey, did you get to see me surf? What was the one word that you said when I asked what you thought about my surfing?
I called you a Gumby.
You called me?
And you haven't let me live it down.
You literally looked at me and said, Gumby. And it shattered me. Not that you were judging me, because I had already judged myself, and I felt like a Gumby watching myself. Now, again, I feel like I need to do some ego protection here, because I'm that narcissistic that I care what a bunch of strangers think about my surfing ability, even though nobody's ever going to see me in the water. I'm not a Gumby, and I am competent. However, I wasn't surfing at the level that I thought that I surfed. Have I patched that up well enough? Does that... I'll move on. Seeing the video and seeing a couple of photos of myself surf gave me a level of self-awareness that I can't possibly have without having that reflected back to me. And once I got over myself and my sadness, I had a chat with one of the guys that works at the resort, and I said, if there was one thing that I could do, just one thing that I could do that would improve my surfing, what would it be? And he said, I reckon if you did this, it'd change everything. And for the next 2 days, I practiced it. And on the final day of my surfing holiday, when I said, hey, did you see my surfing? What did you say?
I couldn't believe how much you improved just in those few days.
I looked like a pro.
You looked like a pro.
and you were really complimentary, but I saw the photos on the final day, and I looked like a completely different surfer.
So can you share what the advice was that he gave you?
Yeah,
What did he say that you needed to work on?
The advice was, when I was doing my turns, he just said I needed to move my shoulders. And by moving my shoulders and my head, that was going to move my hips, and I was going to move my body with a lot more power. I just didn't have enough power in my turns. I'm still doing nice turns, but much better turns if I really rotate my whole body through the turn.
So what I love about that was just the acknowledgement that it requires a whole body movement for you to improve, right?
Yeah.
And I saw that. The difference between you from day 1 to day 5 was massive. Still Gumby, but
I can't believe you're saying
I've got to
that.
keep you humble.
But the humility of being willing to ask for advice is important. There's a lesson there. Nevertheless, go on.
Yeah, so I don't know what your I'll do better tomorrow is out of that, but for me, the acknowledgement that if we want to be great as parents, if we want to be fully present for our kids, it requires our whole being.
Oh, I like that.
We can't actually, go in there and do a half pie twist. What you actually need to do is use your whole body to create that shift and change. And
the best parents are fully immersed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're giving it their all. That's not what my take-home message is, but I really like it a lot. And I think it's particularly pertinent over the next couple of weeks as families are together to really be present, to really put your whole... Do the hokey pokey. You put your whole self in and don't take your whole self out. Just keep your whole self in. But no, the take-home message for me was self-awareness. We are so unaware of what we're doing. We think we're doing it one way. We think we look a certain way. We think we sound a certain way. We think that we're, talking to our children with kindness. And then you see yourself and you go, holy cow, is that really me? And we don't get the chance to see ourselves. It's taken me... I don't want to do the maths, but I'm about to turn 50 next year, and I started surfing when I was 13. So that's like 36 years of surfing, and for the first time I saw myself surf. And when I saw myself, I realized that I was not where I thought that I actually was.
So my question is, would you prefer to have not seen yourself and then keep the illusion
It was
going?
painful. Having the illusion shattered was painful, but it also led to growth. So, quick example, a few months ago, one of the kids was playing a video that they'd been recording in the living room, and in another room, I'd been saying something to one of her sisters. And over the video, I heard my tone of voice as I was speaking to her sister about that thing. And it shocked me. It was a moment of self-awareness. In the conversation with our daughter, I thought that I was speaking to her quite plainly and simply and kindly and gently and explaining what needed to happen. But I heard the video, context free, and as I heard the video, I was like, oh my goodness, I sound so stern. I sound pretty hardcore here. And that was a moment of self-awareness for me. And I went, oh, that hurts. I've just shattered the illusion. I need to speak more gently than I think that I'm speaking, because I don't sound the way I think I sound. In the same way that I don't surf the way I think I surf, but hearing that allowed me to make the tweaks, and hopefully I'm a better parent as a result. That's the conversation, self-awareness. Having someone somehow reflect it back to us will hurt. I guarantee it, but it will also make us better if we're willing to make it. And that's the whole purpose of today's podcast. It's the whole purpose of the Happy Families podcast. I'll do better tomorrow. So thanks so much for listening, and we really hope that this weekend you can do better tomorrow. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media to make your family happier. We'd love for you to check out the resources, particularly the books, at happyfamilies.com.au, and have a great weekend.